Are you left-brained or right-brained? That is the question. So I just passed out a paper to you that looks like this. You guys are going to complete it. So it's supposed to be a mirror image of this face. I'm going to give you guys about a minute to do it, and then we're going to talk about it. So,
are you supposed to draw the other side?
Yeah, draw the other side, just as shown here. It's okay if you can't draw. This is just a test to see if you're left brain or right brain. I'm not going to collect it. All good.
Uh-oh.
Okay, I think a lot of you guys are done now, and I want you to take a look at how you drew it. As you were drawing it, were you thinking about the face as a structure, or were you thinking about the face as a profile? Did you draw it as, if you drew it as the base, you are right brain. You see the big picture, and you're drawing it as the big picture. Now, if you drew it as the face, you're looking, okay, here's the forehead, there goes the nose, the lips, the chin, and the neck. You are more of a left brain person. This is because they see it as structure. You see the face, the eyes, not the whole picture. Okay, so creative and spontaneous, or structured and analytical. Those two phrases describe two distinct areas of the brain, just as we said, left brain and right brain. And I've been researching this topic for quite some time, and the first time I actually heard about it was in high school. My art teacher, Ms. Killingsworth, she told me about it, and it got me really interested, and I decided to research it. So how does this topic relate to you guys, or to me? Each one of us has a preference of how we learn. However, some of us are more left brain, and others are right brain, and we're going to talk about that. So today I'll talk to you guys about the differences between the left brain and the right brain, and how knowing about it can actually improve your education. So, we as human beings, like I said, all have preferences. We prefer our right hand over our left hand, or to go to the movies with friends, or to stay home and do something else. So likewise, we have a preferred method of being right brain or left brain. And the right hemisphere, we're going to start with that one. It is the more creative one as seen in this photo. This is a Mercedes bedside, and it talks about it. I am not sure if you guys can read the words, but I'll read it to you. It says, I am the right-brained. I am creativity, a free spirit. I am passion, yearning, sensuality. I am the sound of roaring laughter. I am taste, the feeling of sand beneath bare feet. I am movement, vivid color. I am the urge to paint on an empty canvas. I am boundless imagination, art, poetry. I sense, I feel, and everything I want it to be. So the right brain people are more of the creative ones. Their day is more spontaneous. Like maybe they go to school and not plan anything afterwards. They would go, a friend asks them, let's go to the movies. They're like, okay, let's go. So Dr. Robert Dew in the magazine, The Quality Test, states that Roger Sperry was the founder of this theory. And Sperry found that the right half of the brain tends to function by recognizing relationships, integrating and synthesizing information, and arriving at intuitive thoughts. So it's about relationships, it's about feelings, emotion, art. Now, another expert on the subject, Dr. Diane Connell, in her article, Left Brain and Right Brain, states that a student who's more right brain prefers to work in groups. They're more social. They like doing art projects. industrial stuff kind of in junior high, like clothing and fashion design and art, photography, all those classes. Graphic design, they would prefer to design and make a mobile rather than write another essay. Okay, so here's another thing. Sure. This one kind of does a better job of describing. Whoops, yeah, here's the left brain. So we see kind of structure, math, all of that logic. Now that we understand a little bit about the right brain, I want to move on to the left. And like I said, it's the more structured side, the logical. On the other side of the Mercedes-Benz ad that we viewed, it says, I'm the left brain. I'm a scientist, a mathematician. I love the familiar. I categorize. I'm accurate, linear, analytical, strategic, always in control. A master of words and language, realistic. I calculate equations and play with numbers. I'm order and logic, and I know exactly who I am. Expert Diane Connell states that the left brain students prefer to work more individually. So in the professional fields, this would be your accountants, these would be people kind of sitting at a desk and working by themselves. Okay, so by the test, you guys were able to find out a little bit more if you're left brain or right brain. And by knowing these things, you're able to do better in school. How so? Okay, so teachers tend to teach students in the way that they're most familiar with. The teacher's right brain, they'll learn it, or they're going to teach in a more right brain way. The more creative activities, different kinds of group projects and stuff. But if the teacher's more left brain, then they're going to teach in that way. So it's going to be PowerPoints and bullet notes and very, very organizational kind of things. So teachers need to understand how students learn and need to be able to accommodate both types of students, and students need to understand which way they learn so they can help themselves. If they don't understand something, maybe they can research it, look it up online. Okay, so in conclusion, although we're dominant in one area, none of us are either right brain or left brain. We're a mixture of both, but more towards one side. It's important that we develop our skills in both areas. And I want to end with a quote. As Connell mentions, our brains are always searching for new meanings and adding new neutral circuits to make connections. So by being both and stretching our minds, we're able to learn. Thanks.
All right, the question and the interactive activity at the beginning were fine, although it does take a little while to get us set up. We find out what the point is, and that was an interesting way to get to that. Your thesis is okay. You've got a very solid preview of what the content's going to be. It starts off with some good supporting information. Afterwards, it sounds a little bit kind of like the stereotypical sort of thing, but you do a nice job describing what those categories ought to be. On the visual factors, your gestures, I think, are pretty solid. Your facial expressions, you generally look animated. Your eye contact's a little bit inconsistent. Sometimes you're note dependent. Sometimes you kind of turn sideways, and that was one of those things that I noticed once the visuals are up on the screen. When you're stepping out in front, you kind of turn sideways and almost look at them, not quite. And then the last half of the speech, you're delivering your speech mostly to me. And I think that's one of those things. There's the teacher, there's the camera. Let me look over there and give my speech. My kids were like that when they were in, when they were 2 or 3 and they were in ballet. They couldn't pay attention to what they were doing. They were always watching me. It didn't work at all. So it kind of happens. I think you needed to project your voice a little bit more sometimes, but there's nice variety in your voice. I think you do a good job of that, and they're always very clear. Once in a while, you get a little bit of anxiety with your feet crossing awkwardly. It's like, I'm doing this kind of thing where you're standing there, and that looks a little bit awkward. And then your voice drops out right at the end of the speech. It just seems like you ran out of energy. I'm done. How do we get finished? And that seemed like a letdown given the rest of the presentation. All right, thank you.